Welcome to this edition of PM in the PM. This is the weekly podcast where I take a recent event or news item and look at how it links back to the ACCA performance management syllabus areas. The benefit of listening, you get to see real-world application of the PM syllabus, of what you're learning. That means you're more likely to remember, and a lot of those questions in PM are about applications. You'll give better answers to those. It will help with PM, but it's also going to help with APM. Now, the news I'm going to talk about today, it is old news, but it appeared in the press again recently. And I remember hearing about it first time and was quite amazed by what was going on. And it's about this Deepfake cyber attack, which cost Arup about $25 million. Arup's a British engineering group, and this fraud occurred in Hong Kong. An employee was apparently tricked by a deepfake impersonation, which instructed them to transfer funds. This employee received an email telling them that there's going to be a secret transaction. They needed to not discuss it with anyone. It was confidential. And they were skeptical, and rightly so. But the amazing thing about this one is then they had a video conference with their chief financial officer who gave them verbal instructions to make the transfers, which they did. And what's so crazy and amazing is the video conference call was AI generated. It was deep fake. And they did 15 transactions, all below the detection level of some control within the organisation, totaling $25 million. Sounds like an employee followed all of the processes properly. They were sceptical about this email and probably never even considered that the person looking at them down the screen was a computer-generated AI image of their CFO. In the PM syllabus area A, part of that area is about managing information, and that includes controls and procedures for security. This is currently a relatively small part of the overall PM syllabus, but I anticipate that this will grow. I suspect we will see when the syllabus changes come in that this area is going to get bigger and bigger. Certainly in our working lives, it's going to be a massive part of what we have to be aware of. These are what are effectively cutting-edge attempts to steal money from organisations. So how do we protect information? How do we protect access? The most basic methods we've been using for many years. Locked doors, security guards, swipe cards, all of these physical processes, they are still valid. Preventing someone physically accessing our buildings, our servers, our computers, our resources is one of the really important ways we prevent them. With such a lot of information being held online, we need other controls. And the PM syllabus talks about various controls, and questions generally come up in Section A and Section B. They could come up in Section C in the narrative type questions. It's unlikely you'll get a whole Section C question on this part of the syllabus, but it certainly could be 4 or 6 marks of a Section C question. Passwords, one of the ways we use to protect our information and protect our data. Everyone uses passwords. It's a set of characters which is known only to that person. There are ways you can limit the number of times someone can attempt to use a password. You've probably all forgotten passwords and had to do a password reset. Passwords can be easy or hard to crack. The number of characters seems to be one of the key things. 14 plus characters is what I've recently read as the minimum number you should be aiming for in a strong password. And also not using words, a random combination of letters, characters, numbers. That's what makes a strong password. Another control that can be used are logical access controls. These prevent people who gain physical access to a terminal or a computer from gaining access to parts of our data. And it's really a permissions-based system. For example, payroll data should only be accessible to identified individuals. Even if someone else goes onto their computer, they shouldn't be able to access that other information. Likewise, financial information should be locked down, only accessible to those who are identified individuals, and logical access controls is the process that can be implemented into a system in order to achieve that. Database controls is another area. The database holds a lot of information which generally can be accessed by a large group of people who maybe want that data in different formats. That's why we have databases. And it's possible people could copy that information, they could disclose it, they could alter it. And database controls is designed to give a limited view. Some people will be able to access all parts of the database. Others could only access the part that's relevant to them. So for example, you might have the IT team are the only ones that can alter the information in the database, whereas other team members outside of the IT department, They can view that information, but they couldn't ever change it. They couldn't change the format of it. One of the things that can happen is this process called circumvention by inference. And what that is, that's where someone pieces together small or trivial bits of information from a database, and it lets them work out something that they shouldn't be aware of, that's confidential, that's sensitive. One example where circumvention by inference occurred: Strava is a fitness tracking app. Many people have it on their fitness watch, and you use it to track your progress. If you do an exercise, going for a run, going for a cycle, it tracks things like your speed, your distance, your elevation, your heart rate, lots of useful information to that user. And Strava, the company, published a global heat map which showed running and cycling routes, which were anonymous. And it just showed a heat map of where lots of running occurred, where lots of cycling occurred. Through inference, it was thought that this could identify secret or sensitive locations such as military bases in conflict zones, because soldiers would be using Strava, record their runs and their cycles, and there'd be a cluster of those around what was a secret area. And then you think, how could that be used? An enemy, a hostile actor could think, oh, well, we're not expecting Strava activity over there. There's probably something going on. So we've got to be careful with database controls, and there's clever ways where people work around to turn what should be anonymous data into data where they get something sensitive, something confidential. Firewalls are another aspect of the PM syllabus. This is effectively a block, a barrier when you're connected to an internet, and it prevents unauthorized access, and it protects against hackers trying to get in, but also against viruses. Encryption is another mechanism we can use. If we're sending information, particularly sensitive information, we can get that information scrambled. So even if someone does access it, they can't read it. It's nonsense to them. And they need to separately receive a key or a method of unscrambling it for it to make sense. The key would be sent separately to the information. If someone intercepts and gets the key, they haven't got the information. If someone intercepts and gets the information, they haven't got the key. So you reduce the risk of them getting both those parts of the puzzle that they need to read that information. And another aspect of the PM syllabus, less technologically based, is around personnel policies, carrying out criminal checks before employing people in these roles where they could have access to this information, where they could deliberately override the controls, also employing people with expertise and knowledge that don't accidentally do something wrong. And then there's other things that you can do. You can have job rotation. Someone doesn't stay in the same role. If they're tempted to try and circumvent controls, they can only do it for a period of time, the aim being that either it will get noticed or it will prevent them doing it because they know that someone might see when the new person comes into the role. Supervision's an obvious one, keeping an eye on staff, making sure they're doing things correctly and following the rules and the process. Reviewing the logs, reviewing who's accessed our databases, who's accessed the information, when and where from. Why have they done that? I remember I was on holiday in Gozo, which is an island off Malta. It was soon after the introduction of hybrid working, and we could access our emails and our calendars remotely. And I wanted to arrange something and I wasn't sure what my schedule was, so I accessed my work diary remotely, and I caused a little bit of a panic in the IT department because it showed that Richard Guyver is accessing the system from Gozo, caused a bit of a panic. No harm done. I wasn't doing anything that I wasn't allowed to do. It just raised a flag, and that's correct because that was an unusual activity. It wasn't any harm, there was no malice, I was just checking my calendar, but it's right that it should be flagged. Someone checks it, and one of the IT team spoke to a member of my team who said, yep, Richard's on holiday in Gozo, and all was fine. Another personnel policy is enforced holidays, and this works in a similar way to job rotation. If someone is forced to take leave every so often, when they do, someone else is going to be taking over that part of work. It means that a new set of eyes will look, and part of that is to see, is everything looking like it should do? We've probably all heard of antivirus software and spyware software. They're quite similar but are different. A virus is a self-replicating program, and it gets onto the system with the aim of damaging the system. So antivirus software firstly tries to prevent that, and secondly scans looking for suspicious programs, identifying them, flagging them, either producing a report so a human can delete them if it is the case that they are viruses. Often it can quarantine them, hold them in suspense until someone manually checks. Spyware is a bit different. Spyware is where someone wants to watch what's happening, and it sends information secretly to a third party. Spyware protection, that's real-time protection to see if information is being sent outside of the system when it shouldn't be. And the last key thing in the syllabus is training. Education, training, informing people of the sorts of things that are going on. It's a bit of an arms race. The people who want to hack into our systems and take advantage are always thinking in new ways. And this deepfake cyber attack was one of those. By raising awareness amongst the team that these sorts of things can happen, then they're less likely to happen. Banks almost routinely now say we will never ask for your password on letters, on emails, because people have in the past given their password to someone that's trying to defraud them. These low-tech solutions like training, they're really good, they're robust. There's no one solution for all of these things. It's definitely a package of preventions and a package of ways to stop it happening. Having the right corporate policies, for example, say we will never make payments outside of the normal system. If someone asks you to, that is not our way. We will not do that. If you make that a line that's never crossed, then you're less likely to get these things where someone tries to work around. So as I said, this is undoubtedly a growing part of the syllabus. It's going to be a massive part of careers of the current generation who are studying ACCA. And we've looked at parts of syllabus area A around controls and procedures for security triggered by that deepfake cyber attack, which cost a British engineering group around 25 million. Thanks for tuning in to PM in the PM. I hope you found this episode informative. I'd love to receive your feedback in the comments, and please share with colleagues who you think might find this helpful. And until next time, this is Richard Guyver signing off.